short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
St. Louis. And I'm not just coming for AIPAC. This ain't even about AIPAC. The billionaires, the corporations that think they're people, that's who I'm coming for.
407 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, and welcome to this after-election Wednesday Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show edition. There you have Cori Bush still trying to sound energetic after she got a butt-whooping yesterday by Wesley Bell in their rematch. We're going to dive into all of that and more today. As you all know, my partner Tim Jones is out of town. He is on the left coast, and joining me today is frequent guest host Jim Gwinner with LS2 Group, and my longtime friend, the man who is eternally tan all the time. Doesn't matter if it's summertime, wintertime. He keeps a tan. Jim, how are you?
I am doing great. It's nice to have the primaries behind us. It's nice to hear Cori Bush going off the rails again. I am glad to be here and always a pleasure to sit in for Tim with you.
All right, before we dive into last night's election, let's cover a little of the news today. Okay. Big news is the president has announced that there could be an agreement to open the Strait of Hormuz. He says that agreement could happen today. Some of the details that have been leaked from this are this, Jim. Says all outbound traffic through the Strait and into the Arabian Sea will go into a southern lane through Omani waters in coordination with Iran. No tolls or fees would be charged during the 60-day period. The parties would work on clearing naval mines from the median lane of the Strait within 30 days, and after the median lane is cleared, it will be used for inbound and outbound traffic under a permanent arrangement to be negotiated between Oman and Iran. Now, before we started the show, the three of us started talking about movies a little bit because Joey is our resident movie critic, and we will be having Joey V's movies today instead of Friday.
He knows my favorite rom-com already.
Because he is going on vacation. But I've got a movie reference here. Seems like we're going through Groundhog Day here with these on and off war between the United States and Iran. Your thoughts on this latest 60-day potential ceasefire?
Yeah, that's a great analogy. I mean, I want to hear "I've Got You, Babe." Hear my little J.C. Penney alarm clock going off. I want to see Bill Murray wake up. But man, this is more talk by the Iranians, more of the exact same thing by the Iranians. Oh, great, we're going to use the Omani side lane. Okay, yeah, well, you know what? I don't know if I ever told you this.
Are there little strips in the ocean there where you can tell which lane you're supposed to be in? It's like a highway?
But you know, I spent 9 years in the Army and the reserves. Right. I also spent a year in Navy ROTC in college. I couldn't pass the sailboat exam, which is why I'm like a land-based soldier.
I thought it was because you couldn't swim or something.
Oh, no, I'm a good swimmer. I'm a good swimmer. But you know what? The little boat gets out of the way of the big boat to the right or to the port side.
Right, I've never understood any of that.
So it's like it's common traffic. So yeah, they're going to stay on one side. They got to go make sure these things. Iranians still have missiles. The Iranians still have the drones. I'll believe it when I see it from Iran.
I've said this numerous times. I think that Iran is preparing an October surprise, and I think these little 60-day ceasefires, which don't even get to 60 fires, they don't do what they're supposed to do within a couple of weeks after this is signed. But, you know, I think when it gets September and October, when we're in the heat of these midterm elections, I think Iran is just going to go full-blown, just as we used to say back in the day, ignorant. Yeah. And they're just going to just try to create havoc to try to disrupt these elections for President Trump and the Republicans.
Well, there's three big things on that fall calendar. Obviously, the November elections, the generals. You've got the October 7 anniversary of the attacks on Israel. And don't forget, 9/11, 25th anniversary. Right. There's a lot of events coming up this fall. I mean, there's always events. They could use Veterans Day or any other holiday or whatever. But, yeah, I put nothing past the terrorist regime that is the Iranian government today.
Yeah. Big show today. We're going to speak at 423 with Don Palmer. He's a senior legal fellow for election integrity at the Heritage Foundation. He's a good person to talk to after having an election last night in Missouri. We'll talk about the SAVE Act. We'll talk about are our elections actually secure. At 425, Chris's Corner, Political said in their articles, Jim, that non-citizen voting was all overblown. It was no big deal. Right. But they had an article the other day that says now they admit that the system runs on the quote-unquote honor system. So I will have a Chris's Corner commentary on that. 5:06, that's an open segment. We'll probably dive more into these elections because I'm sure we're not going to get all into it within the next 8 minutes. Then at 5:23, we'll speak with Paul Perez. He's president of the National Border Patrol Council. We'll talk to him about this recent decision that Haitians have to be sent back to their country. And we'll ask him, how is the border generally going now that President Trump has been in office these last 2 years? And it's Wednesday, but we're going to have Joey V's movies tonight. One night only. It's a rom-com where premarital sex in America is illegal except for one night a year. Is this the 1940s or the 50s or is this
30s? Yeah.
No, it's set in modern time in an alternate universe. Have you heard of the Purge movies?
I have.
Yeah.
Where you get to murder one night?
Yes,
This
yes.
is the,
I wish
the,
that was
the
true.
love version of that. You get to have sex one night.
I've heard of Idiocracy, too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in
It's
politics,
got electrolytes.
when you're in
does.
politics, you'd love to have a purge night where you can just
really? Yeah.
take care of someone. And
Wasn't that yesterday?
No consequences.
That was
Exactly.
yesterday. That was
Exactly.
the political purge night.
All right, Jim, you are a longtime political consultant, longtime friend of mine. You've ran campaigns. You know politics almost as well as I do.
Almost.
I'm just joking. All right, let's get into this Cori Bush, Wesley Bell race. The DSA wave crashed here in Missouri in the 1st District. She was not successful, of course. Yeah. Wesley Bell had a pretty handily handled Cori Bush. Your thoughts on that race? What happened?
Okay, I'll handicap it very shortly by saying Wesley Bell, like his politics, dislike his politics for the listening audience, he is a professional. He is polished. He is the type of elected official that would work across party lines. I've used this analogy about like National Geospatial, et cetera. You know, it's like he will be in the same room as Eric Schmidt and Josh Hawley to bring jobs to St. Louis. I firmly believe that. I don't think Cori Bush could find the building in the first place. She comes across as a blowhard. Yeah. She comes across as, this eternal activist. You heard her last night. I don't need a title to do whatever it is she's going to do. I'm like, well, good, because you don't have a title except former congresswoman. And that's good for the region because you need somebody, regardless of policies, regardless of politics, who's going to sit down and do what's best for the region. That's probably why Kansas City, in many cases, kicks our keister, because they work a little more cohesively. You look at their new airport. I know things are on our horizon, but when you try and look at improving a broad region, it's not all about merging city and county. It is, how do you bring jobs? How do you get the people that need jobs? How do you bring the economic development to the region? And that's first and foremost.
I think it was a telltale sign, and I said this this afternoon on Jamie Allman's show. I said it last night on Tony Colombo's election night extravaganza, that I think it was very telling in this race when there is a DSA wave that is going all across the country within the Democratic Party. You did not see Bernie Sanders come to St. Louis and campaign for Cori Bush. You did not see AOC come in and campaign for Cori Bush. Ro Khanna, who a lot of people think that he is priming a race for president in 2028 in California. You did not see him come into St. Louis. I think that spelled volumes of their thinking that she could win.
Well, 2 years ago, the Democratic, the Black Caucus at D.C. and a lot of the groups kind of stayed out. Black Caucus got behind Wesley this time. The progressive groups kind of kept their distance from him, but they weren't really out to, like, they kind of kept their distance. She was underfunded. He was well funded. He ran a professional campaign. She basically said the exact same thing she said 2 years ago. Wesley Bell bad, Israel bad, and has really brought forth nothing new, no ideas in 2 years.
I think another crucial mistake that she made, if you look at these other DSA candidates, they have broadened their tent to get a wide coalition of white and male, college-educated, very liberal, progressive people. If you look at Cori Bush's campaign, it seemed that she focused mainly on North City and North County. And I said that here on the show several times. That's not going to be enough, just trying to get North City, North County African-Americans to come out. You need the people that live in Lafayette Square, the people that live in University City and Kirkwood and Webster Groves. You need those people to get behind you. Of course, she couldn't come to University City because University City has a very high Jewish population.
She lost that 2 years ago plus.
Yeah, and she was non persona grata or grata, whatever it is, in U cities. But I think that was a tactile mistake to just try to focus on galvanizing the black vote, thinking that was going to be enough to defeat Wesley Bell.
Well, Wesley, he's a Democrat in a Democratic primary. You're going to run anti-Trump. You're going to run against, I'm fighting MAGA, blah, blah, blah. She never, but he also, in his campaign, in his rhetoric, talked about bringing economic development, jobs. He talked about the things he was. Cori Bush could not point to one single accomplishment that she did. I passed this, or I passed so many bills. I'm like, great, but what have you done? I brought X amount of dollars, and then she tries to blame him for tornado funding and different things. And it's campaign rhetoric. I get it, but she ran a negative campaign with nothing positive to say.
I want to talk about another St. Louis County race before we go to break. We'll talk about Amendment 4 and 5. We'll talk about St. Charles County at 505. Another race, Brian Williams actually lives probably about 2 blocks around the corner from my house. I've seen him many times at local restaurants in U City. He's honestly a nice guy.
Great guy.
He is someone that is willing to work across the aisle with Republicans, even though he's a very liberal person. He went to Hazelwood Central like I did, years after I did, of course. But he's generally a very likable guy, and I feel sorry for him today, Jim, because he was on the road to becoming the next county executive until Angela Mosley or Walton Mosley got in this race, and everyone knows she got into the race to be a spoiler for Zimmerman.
So it diluted the African American
vote. And
if
you look at Zimmerman's vote total, and you add up Mosley's vote total and Williams' vote total, he wins.
Yeah. I mean, I think his campaign is compared to Zimmerman's. Obviously, one, you have the splitting the vote. But I think Brian's campaign was underfunded compared to Zimmerman's. What I took away from that race was, and I heard a friend of mine who pulled a Democratic ballot saying, I do have Democrat friends, but they're saying, I don't know if I'm going to vote for Williams or if I'm going to vote for Zimmerman. And the reasoning was, what this person had heard about Williams down at the State House, supporting or not supporting, and then trying to reconcile that with the assessments that we were seeing and the increases we were seeing. And to me, like, if I would have pulled a Democratic ballot, I would have absolutely voted for Williams because of my property tax assessments. And I can't wait to get into 4 and 5 with you about this, because I got a disagreement that we talked off on air. We're gonna chit chat about that.
We will talk about that much more in the 505 time frame. But next, we're going to speak with Don Palmer, Senior Legal Fellow for Election Integrity at the Heritage Foundation. You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with Jim Gwinner sitting in today on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. from the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Watch for a few isolated evening storms overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. That's where we have to watch for some heavy rain and even some isolated flooding is possible. And many of the area are under a flood watch. For most, you're just seeing about a ½ inch to 2 inches of rain, but there will be some isolated pockets of 3 to 5 inches of rain. Where that occurs, this is where we have to watch for some flooding. Temperatures in the 80s tomorrow. With your first alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
Hey everyone, it's Todd Showalter with my buddy Joey V. Be sure to join me and Joey for the Right Mind Show, where we put the fun in our dysfunctional world. Saturdays at 5, right here at 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Boy, last Friday night had a great dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. Of course, I'm talking about Timothy's in Creve Coeur. I was able to bring my good friend Jamie Allman with me. He had dinner with me and Becky. I've been telling him how good this restaurant is, and Jamie had the crab cakes, and he actually really did have 2 martinis, not 3 martinis, but he loved it as much as I do. Timothy's is led by executive chef Will Mabry. They have a contemporary American cuisine, that's what they're calling it, with such a touch of Southern charm. They've got great dishes like pastrami, smoked lamb, shrimp, and grits. And I've been telling you, my wife absolutely loved the lobster pie. Everything we've tried has been absolutely incredible. If you like wine, they have a huge wine selection. They have over 500 wines to choose from. Timothy's, you can enjoy dinner there and lunch 7 nights a week, plus lunch, brunch, and private events. Timothy's are located in the Bellevue Plaza in Creve Coeur at 12710 Olive Boulevard or online at timothysstl.com.
Dreaming about a vacation but not sure where to start? Should you book that all-inclusive resort or a cruise? Which destination? What cruise line? And how do you know you're getting the best value? That's where Magic Expeditions comes in. We're your St. Louis local travel experts, helping you choose the vacation that fits. Whether a relaxing, adults-only escape, family-friendly resort, or unforgettable cruise adventure, skip the stress, the guessing, and endless online searching. Visit magicexpeditions.com. That's magicexpeditions.com.
You're still glowing, flirting, grooving. You've still got it. But your immune system weakens as you age, making it harder to fight illnesses like pneumococcal pneumonia and RSV. Vaccines are a key part of any health routine and can help protect you from getting really sick. Ask your doctor or pharmacist which vaccines you need. See more at PfizerForAll.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
This is the story of the one who keeps multiple buildings running smoothly day after day. Plumbing that flows, HVAC that hums, cleaning supplies that keep surfaces sparkling. That's why she counts on Grainger. With easy reordering online and 24/7 support, Grainger helps her keep the products she needs on hand. So shelves stay stocked and buildings stay ready. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Dropping truth bombs and making you think. It's the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show.
CNN projects that Abdul al-Sayed, seen as the progressive candidate, will be the Democratic nominee for Senate in Michigan. But man, it was close. Less than 1 percentage point separates him from Congresswoman Haley Stevens. The vote difference right now, less than 15,000 votes separate these two candidates.
425 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show, and el-Sayed did pull out that victory, and that is a victory for the DSA. But I think with it being so close, that doesn't spell very well for him in a purple state.
No,
just
and
my view.
The GOP candidate looks fairly strong, and you're right, it is a purple state. So
on the line with us is Dan Palmer. He's a senior legal fellow for election integrity at the Heritage Foundation. Don, how are you, my friend?
I am doing good. How about yourself?
I can't complain for a Wednesday hump day. We're doing good here. All right, I guess the first question we should ask with all of the questions regarding election security, do you think last night's elections were secure? We had a primary election here in Missouri as well. There were no hiccups. Everything went according to plan.
Well, it sounds like it. When you talk to officials across the country, things went expeditiously. You had results. Folks seem to be happy. The political parties, the candidates have observed the election. So I haven't heard too many complaints, sort of like we heard back in the primary with the California race. There was a bunch of complaining going on, and people seem to be satisfied with this election thus far.
Mm-hmm.
Are you seeing any chatter about any question, like specifically anywhere, based on the primaries yesterday, and kind of what's your outlook towards November?
Well, we haven't heard any. I think that there was some chatter about the Kansas constitutional amendment or the how they were to select judges in that state. A lot of money, outside money, came into that race. Over $13 million were spent by outside groups and to really try to change the way judges in Kansas were selected on the Supreme Court. And that amendment failed. And then, surprisingly, you have a red state with a very blue Supreme Court. And so it just shows you the importance of voting. In that state, the governor appoints judges. So, look, if you want conservative judges, you're going to have to vote for a conservative governor.
Dan, there is a debate among the grassroots here in Missouri, Republican grassroots, about hand counting ballots versus the machines counting the ballots. The argument against hand count ballots, of course, is there aren't enough election workers to count all of those ballots. But then on the other side, you have people that don't trust the machines. What's your view of hand counting ballots?
Well, I think it's a bad idea. I mean, hand counting ballots. Our poll workers average about 75 years of age, and just serving as a poll worker is very tiring. Those examples where we have, races that have been tabulated tens of thousands of ballots. Poll workers get tired of counting. There's not enough counters, and there's a lot of errors that are made. I've worked at the Election Assistance Commission. I was commissioned there for a number of years. I've seen the program up place about how they set standards and do testing in accredited labs. And I've seen hundreds of thousands of ballots go through tabulators and be absolutely precise. And so, I think that using machines and then having humans audit those machines and those ballots, that paper ballot is the best practice. I think that, I think it's very difficult to imagine a world where we'd have, 160 million ballots hand counted across the country.
So in a recount, obviously, when you're doing the retabulations through the machines, human interface, but when they do a recount, like, what do you see as kind of like the industry standard, for lack of a better phrase, of, let's say there's a governor's race, hypothetical, and there's, a recount. What's the difference generally in, like, a percentage, a fractional? Like, what do you see what would jump out at you as like, oh, there's something going on? Like, where does the human interaction come when they start doing recounts and they start looking at these numbers? I mean, again, many times they recount, there's nothing wrong, but like, where do they start to feel the hair on their back or the neck stand out? When do their spidey senses tingle?
Well, I think for most observers, it's when there's something really unusual, like there's looks like maybe a precinct has been counted twice, or there's some irregularity where, the Democrats can expect 200,000 votes and the Republicans can expect 350 in this county. And then all of a sudden there's a dramatic change of some sort. Folks are then going to look at the records. They're going to see all the results coming in correctly. What's the deal? What makes this different? We were talking about the voting machines, and, I came from the state of Florida, and by the time there was a recount back, I believe it was 2018, it might have been the DeSantis run for governor. And, there were three races that there was a statewide recount, and they were all within 10,000 votes. Mm-hmm. Most observers would say that there really is no chance with the 10,000 vote margin, and there really wasn't. Even though we went into, I guess it was a partial recount. Look, the ballot, the machines are so accurate that you're not going to make up that type of you're not going to make up that type of difference. If the results had been 300 to 500, perhaps in a statewide race, there might be some issues, but there's just not enough irregularities to make a difference when you're talking about a 10,000 vote margin.
Speaking with Don Palmer, Senior Legal Fellow at the Election Integrity at the Heritage Foundation. Don, we learned a few weeks back that the state of New Jersey had registered 6,000 non-citizens. 400 of those voted. Congress is looking into getting records, but New Jersey's being a little stubborn about that. Why do you think so?
Well, I don't think they want to show all the problems they have. Look, we need citizenship verification for registration. We really don't have a system in this country that does it accurately and comprehensively. And so this is a real problem. And if you do a simple Google search, you see it's not just blue states, it's red states. Florida just indicted another person they indicted who Canadian had voted in 7 elections over 2 decades. You got to be kidding me. That had remained undetected. So look, I mean, to my friends on the other side of the aisle, and I would just simply say, look, the system is broke. Don't we, in a bipartisan way, want to fix this problem so we don't have to talk about it for the next 2 decades? I mean, seriously, we have a lot of, resident aliens that live here. We have a lot of, non-citizens, some illegal aliens. They live among us. And this wasn't a problem 20, 30 years ago, but it is today. We want to give them driver's license and benefits, but we have to have a system of sort of delineating between citizens and non-citizens. And we're going to have people voting that have no eligibility to be doing so. And that just kills the confidence in elections, and I was a former election official. I feel terrible when this stuff happens. But look, the election officials don't have the tools to do this. So this is why the Trump administration has been trying to provide it. This is why you have the SAVE Act that's being proposed. We have to have a system in place where we feel confident that the registered voters have been verified and we have documentation that they're a citizen.
One of the arguments you hear from the left on the document verification is the barriers to getting the documents, to proving. How big of an issue is that? I mean, you've got to have a license or you got to have a birth certificate. My daughter's opening a credit card before she goes overseas. She got it, Dad, bring my Social Security home from the safe deposit box. I just grabbed her birth certificate because it was in there. How hard are some of these things or how widespread? I think, it's hard if I can't find the key to my safe deposit box. Pretty darn hard. But how widespread are these issues that people can't get the documentation that they need in this day and age when every single thing is probably A, digitized, and B, at your county board of health record?
It's really not a problem. And, most of us have gone to the driver's license agency. When a woman sometimes changes her name, it could be an issue.
Mm-hmm.
But just like the driver's license agencies, we've overcome that. Most of your information is digitized. So for the vast majority of people, they're going to be immediately verified. You might have to bring in some documentation on identity. And so, this is the type of, demagoguery we have when people say, well, 68 million people aren't going to be able to register to vote. The SAVE Act actually has a provision where women who have a name change and the documentation may be difficult to get on that name change issue, they can just sign an affidavit that states that I've changed my name and this is why. But 98% of the individuals who come in to a DMV, for example, or to register to vote will be verified sort of electronically. But there's going to be issues where we need an identifying number as an election official, or you need the documentation. And this is why the DMVs or the SAVE database that the Trump administration has been improving, they have that documentation. So a lot of this happens behind the scenes. But there's always going to be some, as I was talking about earlier, someone who's been newly naturalized. Well, that may not be in the system yet. And so the election official may reach out and say, hey, we need a proof of this. We need something to show us that you're a citizen. You say you are, but we need to verify. Trust but verify. Mm-hmm. Well, it's not really too much to ask someone who's a new citizen or wants to register to vote to provide the copy of her naturalization papers because we need it. It's really not that much. And the Supreme Court said so in the voter ID case, the Crawford versus Indiana case. So, this is it's just really overstating the issue.
Right.
It's not that much of a difficult process to overcome. And, in the legislation, they make accommodations for that.
Yeah, and in most states, or correct me if I'm wrong, or I guess this is my question, but do most states, when we hear about provisional balloting and like, oh my gosh, you're at the wrong polling place, or you make accommodations and it goes in the provisional ballot until they can verify these things? I mean, if someone's trying to register, that's documentation, that's one thing, but then on the day of the election, providing that proof as well, don't most states allow for them to help people that genuinely have an issue and provisionally cast their ballots so that they can be verified and cast?
That's absolutely right. I mean, this is federal law to have a provisional ballot, which means that if somehow there was a mistake and something wasn't verified, you can vote a provisional ballot, and that gives the election official, the opportunity to investigate, and the person themselves, that if they forgot their ID, or let's say they didn't have a record of naturalization, you were able to do that before the election is certified, and your ballot would count. So look, no one's trying to disenfranchise people or turn them away, but it's like, we want to have a process and a system where we can document, trust but verify. Again, we need that record to make sure that we're comfortable that everybody is voting as eligible. And, so it's just a common sense thing that the Supreme Court has upheld over the years. And they're going to be hearing a citizenship case, the next term. Hopefully it will resolve some of these questions.
Speaking with Don Palmer, he's a senior legal fellow for election integrity at the Heritage Foundation. Don, Axios is reporting that in at least one voter fraud investigation, the FBI has begun requesting IP address information associated with online voter registration. Is there a pause for concern here for privacy, or is this good detective work?
Well, interesting. I haven't read the article, but it is absolutely detective work. It goes back 15 years. When I was in the state of Florida, and there's an online process to request an absentee or mail vote or a mail ballot, very similar to the online voter registration, but it's how we detect fraud. We want to have the benefit of an online voter registration system. We want to be able to use technology, right, to be a part of it. But when there's some sort of voter fraud, or someone's trying to request multiple ballots, or try to register multiple times, we want to have a system in place that where is that coming from, and then investigate it. So I certainly don't think it's an invasion of privacy. In fact, it's one of those safeguards that's why we can have nice furniture, right? We need to take care of it.
Maybe this is kind of me showing my privilege, for lack of a better word, but it's like, I don't know. When I was 18, the two things I did on my birthday were I signed up for the Selective Service and I registered to vote. Okay, like if I was 17 and would have found a fake ID, I would have been like, oh, I can join the Army now. But it's never seemed like a barrier to me. At college, when I changed my voter registration to Boone County because I was at the University of Missouri and I wanted to vote locally, it was not hard to re-register or to move my vote. It was not hard at 18. It was not hard at the fall when I was 18 to move it from Marion County to Boone County. It was not hard to move it to Jefferson City when I got out of the Army. It's not hard to do it here in I've never seen that it is a barrier to actually do what you're supposed to do as a person who is entitled to vote in the United States, to provide the information to the election authority. I just don't get why the other side seems to have such an issue that proving that you're allowed to vote is hard, because I don't think it's hard.
Well, I think some of it has to do with victim mentality. It's I'm a victim here to these cruel Republicans who are imposing integrity measures. And the reality of it is it's just not that difficult. But there's this victim mentality. And look, once something becomes a political issue, then it's like whatever it takes to win the argument takes place. And frankly, when you have unlimited resources to sue every jurisdiction across America, like, some on the left do, the courts, I think sometimes they get Trump derangement syndrome. It's like we got to stop a good measure simply because the Trump administration may have offered it. And so I just think, having done this for a while, I think once things hit the politics, all good things must come to an end. We can't have good things because, someone's got to make it a political issue.
Right.
Don, you recently wrote an article about the UPS releasing proposed security transparency standards for mail-in ballots. What's a few of those proposed transparency standards?
Well, it gives insight to where the ballot is at all times. A lot of people are concerned about the chain of custody of ballots because it's not in election officials' hands. The USPS isn't renowned for making this the most efficient or timely process. It's often delayed. Would you put $1 million check in the mail, or would you drive it down to the bank?
Nope.
I think that exactly. So I think that when they talk about transparency, it's like all counties. There needs to be uniformity in the states and counties that are going to use a mail ballot. That not only does the office have insight of where that ballot is at all times, but also the voter and USPS. It allows USPS, the Postal Service, and their investigatory team to investigate and sort of, as we just talked about with IP addresses, can they detect any sort of fraudulent activity? And for those that say there's no fraudulent activity, let me just tell you, we have entire agencies in the federal government that are designed to stop fraud and mail fraud. I mean, these are tens of thousands of employees. So this is what they do. And if we give them more insight into where mail is and ballots are during the process, they can identify where they believe there may be fraud. And so, again, it's a common sense measure. We want to make sure we have eyeballs on these things, just like we have eyeballs on ballots that are in possession of the election official or at early voting sites. So to me, this is a really good measure. That transparency is absolutely needed.
And Don, I tell you, I wouldn't be so much concerned about the USPS losing my $1 million check. I'd be more concerned about them stealing my $1 million check. We've had all types of instances here in St. Louis where people are stealing mail. I read something the other day in Florida where a postal worker stole a winning lottery ticket that someone was mailing to someone. They opened it up, went and cashed it in themselves. So, yeah, I'm worried about them stealing it than losing it.
Man.
That's a sad commentary on the Postal Service, I know.
So let me ask you this. You're talking about the Postal Service, the USPS, and delivery of the ballots and tracking. Is there any talk or any consideration to private sector like UPS or FedEx doing that? Or obviously I get the post office being a federal agency having the stewardship of those things and probably the responsibility. But is there also, or is there talk of, again, the UPS, the FedEx, et cetera, of maybe having the ability to do that because they may be able to do it for cheaper?
Well, that's a state-by-state issue. I mean,
Okay.
I think technically they could participate. They could do this. I mean, a lot of overseas voters, if the law permits, they use, FedEx or UPS to get a ballot back in time. If they're concerned about it, they may not use the United States Postal Service. And so, I think that we have to start thinking about this, though, because, just as USPS has sort of at times failed our overseas voters, our military, in getting ballots back on time, they failed a lot. I mean, they've made mistakes, but they have to be some level of accountability because they are a federal agency. But I do think that with their with their budgets going down and the performance going down, I mean, this is not. I don't think election officials need to be tying the right to vote to the performance of the USPS because we know it's going in different directions, right? And so we have to start thinking about alternatives. We need to think about how we vote without relying on the Postal Service because things are just going in the wrong direction.
And that is Don Palmer, Senior Legal Fellow for Election Integrity at the Heritage Foundation, heritage.org, and on X, Voting Guide. Don, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
445, Chris's Corner. Politico said non-citizen voting was overblown. Now they've changed their mind. I'll tell you all about it next on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Watch for a few isolated evening storms overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. That's where we have to watch for some heavy rain and even some isolated flooding is possible. And many of the area are under a flood watch. For most, you're just seeing about a ½ inch to 2 inches of rain, but there will be some isolated pockets of 3 to 5 inches of rain. Where that occurs, this is where we have to watch for some flooding. Temperatures in the 80s tomorrow. With your first alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
If you have a phone, you have a radio. Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
Love the all-new News Talk STL app.
And listen anytime, anywhere.
I never in my life thought I would say that I love going to the dentist, but I actually do. I love going to the Dental Link. It's run by Dr. Link and his son, Andrew. And, you know, right away you can tell it's different. It doesn't feel like one of those cold clinical offices. It feels like a place where people actually enjoy working there, and that matters when someone is working on your teeth. I noticed that immediately. The staff is relaxed, they're professional, they're friendly, and all that starts with how Dr. Link treats his team. You know, you can just tell. Now, for me, this is personal. I've had dental implants done there, and that's not a small thing. That's serious dental work. And they walk me through the whole process, step by step, no pressure, no confusion, just straight answers and making sure I was comfortable the whole time. If you've been putting something like that off because you're nervous, I get it, but here's what you should know. They offer many dental implants which are less invasive, quicker recovery, and a lot less discomfort than the traditional route. I'll tell you this, getting my implants done was a game changer. They look natural, they feel natural, and honestly, it gave me a level of confidence back I didn't even realize I was missing. If you've been thinking about it, just go talk to them. The Dental Link is in Baldwin, right there at 141 and Manchester. You can give them a call also at 636-496-8584 or check them out at thedentallink.com, thedentallink.com. Do good, do it well, have fun doing it. That's their motto.
Oh, Hank, what a wonderful spider web you have built for us. I love this fabulous space we have right here in the corner of the kitchen.
Thanks, Charlotte. I think I'll build us a vacation web in the coat closet. Oh, no. It's the pest control company again with those green wheels. They always kill the mood.
This is Derek, the owner of All Solutions Pest Control. Give us a call today at 636-486-7888. We'd love to help you out. Learn more about our special $67 offer. You can visit us online at allsolutionspestcontrol.com.
If a pest-free home is your goal, call All Solutions Pest Control.
Is your portfolio prepared for the biggest risks facing investors today? Hi, it's Tim Jones. High inflation and a rapidly changing economy may impact your investments. If you haven't made appropriate changes, your portfolio may not be positioned to address some of the biggest risks in today's economy. That means it's time to request your free portfolio review from the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on News Talk STL 101.9. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create a portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free portfolio review, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas & Company, Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Hi, it's Ken Williams, and my favorite Capriati sandwich is the Capistrami. You've got hot pastrami, melty Swiss cheese, crunchy coleslaw, and zesty Russian dressing. What else do you need? I love Capriati's, and you will too. On Manchester at McKnight and Rock Hill, and now in Creve Coeur on Olive, just 1 mile west of 270.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
The story behind the story. 60 Minutes legend Andy Rooney said only two kinds of people are in the world, A and B.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Follow Chris Arps on Twitter at Chris_Arps.
Chris. And if you don't know, now you know.
And now, Chris's Corner.
For months, we've been told concerns about non-citizens ending up on the voter rolls was overblown. Nothing to see here. Move along. Then New Jersey happened. Democratic Governor Mackie Sherrill announced that a software error and a state motor vehicles commission registered roughly 6,600 people who indicated they were not U.S. citizens. According to the governor, these individuals answered no when asked if they were citizens, and the system registered them anyway. Even more troubling, the governor's office says nearly 400 of them cast ballots. Now comes the interesting part. After spending months dismissing Republican concerns, Politico suddenly acknowledges something election integrity advocates have been saying for years. America's voting registration system relies heavily on trust. Politico reported that election officials have long known many states lack an effective way to independently verify citizenship at the time someone registers to vote. In many cases, officials rely largely on the applicant answering the citizenship question truthfully. In other words, the system depends on the honor system. To be clear, New Jersey officials say this was a software error, not an organized conspiracy, and there is no evidence that all non-citizens registered elsewhere have voted, but that's not really the point. The point is that if thousands of people who explicitly answered no, I'm not a U.S. citizen, can still wind up registered because of a government error, then concerns about election integrity aren't simply imaginary. Reasonable people can debate the best solution. Should states require documentary proof of citizenship? Should databases be modernized? Should voter rolls be audited more frequently? Those are legitimate policy debates. But pretending there isn't a vulnerability in the system is becoming harder to defend. One thing New Jersey has demonstrated is that mistakes can happen. And when they involve voter registration, Americans of every political persuasion should want those mistakes identified, corrected, and prevented in the future. Because confidence in our elections depends not only on counting every legal vote, but on ensuring that only legal votes be counted. And that is Chris's Corner. I ask you to follow me on X at Chris_Arps and on Facebook, Christopher Arps Politics. Jim, your thoughts, sir?
You know, I wish I was listening to you a second ago.
You're not supposed to be that honest on the air.
No. I mean, I agree.
Jim, Joey doesn't listen to me, but I expect at least my co-host to.
I do listen. I think you were spot on. I think you were eloquent.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No, you know, every time you come here, or I come here, and every time I listen to your corner, it's like, you know, the depth of what you're pointing out and pointing out these problems. It's good. I always enjoy the Chris's Corner.
Well, thank you, sir. You know, in a different time in life, I worked at the St. Louis County Election Board. It's hard to believe it's been 25 years when I worked there. But when you are there and you get to see how the sausage is made, I can easily see how people can be not voting or double voting and all that. I mean, a lot of people automatically believe that when you move to a different jurisdiction, maybe in the same state or the same city, or you move to a different state, that automatically you are dropped from those roles. Right. That is not the case. It is up to you to let your formerly election board know that you have moved, and 90+% of people don't do that.
No.
And you know, when you leave, and then you have the Democrats are upset because these people haven't told the election board that they moved. They haven't registered or they haven't voted in years. They get dumped from the rolls, and then the Democrats are crying that you're trying to, you know, get rid of people that are legitimately on the voting rolls.
Well, when I turned 18, like I mentioned, you know, I go down to Marion County and I register at the post office or wherever it was. I did the selective service at the post, but I registered to vote when I turned 18. Then I go to Mizzou, and that fall, Kit Bond election, 1986.
Look at you.
I register in Boone County, so I don't have to go to home again. I never bothered.
You could have always gotten the absentee ballot, though, Jim.
Yeah, that would have implied I knew what that was. Well, I mean, I knew what it was, but what's my reason? Right. No, I just figured you move your registration to where you live and you vote locally. I mean, I do think it's important to vote locally because you got to vote on the potholes, you got to vote on the local taxes, you got to vote on everything up from dog catcher to president. But it matters to make your community better by voting where you live. But I didn't call Marion County and say, purge me. When I left Cole County, and I moved to Sedalia 6 months, but I was going off to the Army. I didn't, there was no major elections. But yeah, then I registered down in Cole County. I didn't tell Boone County.
So
and
you
when
were
I moved-
technically registered to vote in 3 places. I think
did,
there's a statute of
but
limitations
I did not.
there.
I hope. I imagine Marion County probably purged me. I'm not sure if Boone County would have purged me. Maybe Boone County.
Boone County wouldn't have purged you. They're heavily Democrats. So
county-
somebody voted for you in Boone County, probably.
Very possible. There was a guy that had my first and last name, different middle initial, that lived in Boone County. And every year I would get this phone call around the same time of the year asking if I wanted to go talk at some cardiac. I think the guy was an EMT. And I was like, man, I'd love to go to San Diego and talk about paramedics and ambulances and helicopters. But I go, I'm a sophomore political science major. You don't want me.
Gwinner is not a usual name. You no relation to this guy at all?
None. So there's a big faction of by Gwinner standards, a big pot of them in Macon, and so Macon, Moberly, and a couple trickle down. Nearest I can tell, my great grandpa immigrated here from Germany directly. So the Gwinners in north central Missouri, I don't believe. There's every once in a while somebody tells, "Oh, are you relation to the grocery store here in St. Louis?" I didn't know there was one.
I didn't either.
But there's a faction or a group of them out in Philadelphia too, but no relation.
All right, 4:57. When Jim and I get back, we're going to dive into this Amendment 4 and 5. Jim actually disagrees with me on
Bits
one
and
of my
pieces.
points. So
By and large, I agree.
We'll dive into that. At 5:23, we'll speak with Paul Perez, president of the National Border Patrol Council. And it's not Friday, it's only Wednesday, but Joey is going to review a movie called One Night Only. All that coming up on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show with Jim Gwinner sitting in on 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hungry for the best steak you'll ever have? Head to the heart of Moscow Mills and discover Harry J's, a local landmark and family-owned steakhouse, serving up excellence since '98. From mouth-watering appetizers to decadent desserts, Harry J's has something for everyone. Enjoy our extensive bar selection while soaking in our friendly family atmosphere. Whether dine-in or carry-out, your meal is prepared to perfection. Make the drive to 300 Main Street and treat yourself to a taste of Moscow Mills' finest. Harry J's, more than a steakhouse. We're a tradition.
This is Mark Harder with RE/MAX Results, the #1 RE/MAX franchise in the region. As a licensed real estate broker with RE/MAX Results for over 20 years, I've seen the ups and downs of many real estate markets, including the one we're in right now. With the spring market in full swing, now is the time to leap into the buying or selling of your home. Someday is not a day. Today is the day to make your move. Call me at 314-852-8933 or email me at markhardersells@gmail.com.
I'm in my late 60s. My husband died a few years ago. He did all of our taxes. I sold a piece of property last year, and I forgot to claim the proceeds of the sale. Next thing I know, I got a letter from the IRS telling me that I owe over $50,000. Now I have a huge tax problem. I don't have that kind of money. I wish I knew who to call.
If you sold property in the last calendar year or didn't claim all of your part-time or even retirement income, you could be in big trouble with the IRS. Call first before they send you a letter. If you've already got a letter, call. We'll help you file years of past tax returns and save you time and money. So call the tax doctor. The call is confidential and free.
800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. 800-240-4586. That's 800-240-4586.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from Town Hall. I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Abdul El Sayed, an insurgent former public health official who harnessed Democratic frustration with the party establishment, narrowly defeated Congresswoman Haley Stevens in Michigan's U.S. Senate primary, setting up a crucial test for progressives in a key battleground state. Senate Majority Leader John Thune says he's looking forward to the general election in Michigan after Democrats nominated El Sayed, who will face off against Republican Mike Rogers.
I think it's a great contrast. Mike Rogers is a great candidate, very experienced, ran last time, learned a lot, and I think is running a terrific campaign. And fortunately, benefited this time from not having to have a divisive primary like what happened in his last race.
The outcome of the Michigan Senate race could help decide control of the U.S. Senate. A heavily armed man who was checking out security at Trump National Golf Club in Rancho Palos Verdes, California, ahead of the president's visit there, is under arrest.
The 38-year-old facing 5 charges, including a felony. Staff spotting him scoping out security on Friday prior to the president's visit there on Tuesday. Court documents say the suspect was wearing an earpiece while taking pictures and videos of security guards and surveillance cameras on the property. The suspect returned again on Saturday, and that's when he was arrested. Detectives finding bullets in his pocket and a loaded gun in his car. When they search his home, they find a rifle, body armor, and a notebook reportedly containing disturbing statements about the president.
Correspondent Laura Winters reporting. Iran and Oman have moved closer to an agreement on the Strait of Hormuz. This comes after President Trump said a deal to reopen the critical waterway could be announced soon. The strait's closure has driven up global fuel prices. More at townhall.com.
Hey, y'all, I'm Willie Robertson.
And I'm Corey Robertson.
We partnered with Echo. It's a new platform, not just streaming.
Movies and series that are safe for your family. I love a podcast.
Plus, Echo Daily Devotionals.
Echo. Hey, Willie, what is Echo?
Echo is my pet squirrel. Okay, now, Echo is not just faith-friendly, it is faith-driven.
Be a part of something better.
Echo.
Echo.
Where I want to be.
That's EKKL.com.
Subscribe now.
Hi, Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. Step up your grilling game with our Solaire portable infrared grills. Our compact everywhere is a favorite of RVers and trailer pullers. Solaire infrared provides the quick sear for bar marks and texture needed to properly finish sous vide. Use a portable alongside your larger conventional grill to create an instant sear zone and more juicy and flavorful food. Learn more at BestHotGrill.com. Affordable, powerful, portable infrared grills at BestHotGrill.com.
From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Watch for a few isolated evening storms. Overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, that's where we have to watch for some heavy rain and even some isolated flooding is possible. And many of the area are under a flood watch. For most, you're just seeing about a ½ inch to 2 inches of rain, but there will be some isolated pockets of 3 to 5 inches of rain. Where that occurs, this is where we have to watch for some flooding. Temperatures in the 80s tomorrow. With your first alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
It's not pleasant to hear it, but Missouri is falling behind in its spending of state tax dollars, education, and health care. But there are ways to get Missouri moving forward again and produce a better life for all of us. That's why we at the Show Me Institute put together our 2026 Missouri Blueprint, a roadmap on how the state can move to a brighter future. The blueprint covers policy ideas from taxes to government transparency, from education to healthcare and budget reform. Let's allow students to attend the school of their choice. Let's adopt new proven methods to help the many school kids who can barely read. Let's limit state spending growth for Missouri's long-term financial stability. And let's invest in future needs with more nuclear energy. Why not common sense reforms to make things better for all Missourians? Check out our 2026 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the all-new News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone.
Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the new app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere.
How's your roof been holding up this spring and summer? Do you even know? I've got the one-stop shop for you. Our one-stop roof and shop is Corel Roofing Co. at CorelRoofingCo.com. Tim Jones here to tell you all about Corel Roofing Company. They are a fantastic roofing company that is independently owned, locally owned, and family owned right here in the St. Louis metropolitan area, specifically based in the county of St. Charles, but they service the entire region. Curtis Corel has 20 plus, yes, he's in his third decade of roofing experience, and Corel Roofing Company does it all. Yes, roofing, but also they do siding and they do gutters. Because they're based here, because they're located here, because they're a family-owned business here, They're not some fly-by-night operation. You can trust them to take really good care of you and yours from the very beginning to long after the end of the process. They work with your insurance company, not against them. They've got all the latest styles and things you can look at their office, brick-and-mortar office right here in the county of St. Charles, and so much more. Call the one-stop roofing shop of Corel Roofing Company. They're at CorelRoofingCo.com, CorelRoofingCo.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
Nobody stands up. These people are crazy. I'm telling you, they're crazy.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
For months now, you've likely been seeing the ads for Amendments 4 and 5, but now both of those have been shut down by voters. Missouri voters overwhelmingly rejected a proposed tax change last night. Amendment 5 was called about an hour after polls closed, filled with more than 80% of voters marking no. The measure would have phased out the state's income tax, but the debate centered on whether lawmakers could later adjust other taxes, including sales taxes.
5:07 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, and there you hear Amendment 4 and 5 went down pretty badly last night. I got to tell you, I saw some internal polling, as I'm sure you did also, Jim. It was not looking very good for Amendment 4 or 5 to pass, but I did not see 80-20 at all. And I've been involved in politics professionally for about 25 years, and I'm going to ask you this question. You've probably been even longer. Have you ever seen a candidate or even a ballot initiative lose that badly?
No, I'm hard-pressed to think of anything that decisive of a margin. Yeah. But, you know, throughout this entire cycle, I would hear friends, neighbors chit-chatting about 4 and 5, and the people that did not like the the initiative petition process change, they were much more vocal than the people that were supporting it. To me, it's a way to restrain the left and outside money coming in, and I get the argument. And the income tax one, you know, all of the, this tax and this other tax are going to go up. And, you know, that was the resonant noise I kept hearing just out and about from not colleagues, but because we're all politicos,
Right.
but like from the random friends who don't do this, the people I might chit-chat and play golf with or see at a restaurant or just having a general conversation with a non-politico. Those were the ones that were vocal about the opposition.
Yeah.
And it was not one or two. It was very consistent.
I mean, as I said, I saw internal polling that showed that Amendment 5 was not doing very well. I live and die on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I saw on those platforms that it was not doing so good. But I was taking that with a grain of salt because that's all an echo chamber.
Right.
You know, that stuff's going to be amplified, the algorithm, all of that stuff. But I did not see it losing 80-20. Regarding my thoughts on Amendment 5, I wasn't supportive of it. Tim Jones, my partner, of course, helped spearhead the effort to try to pass it. I had many concerns about Amendment 5 going into this. My biggest concern was that asking voters to vote for something that really had no details, and in this political climate where even the left and the right don't trust their politicians,
right.
and you're asking voters to trust us, and we're going to let a future legislature decide which of these sales taxes are going to be raised. I thought that just made this thing dead on arrival from as soon as it was signed by the governor and was going to the ballot.
Yeah, there's a couple of things. Like the opposition to 4 and 5 worked coordinated. It was no on 4 and 5.
Yeah.
I mean, it was voiced as a referendum against an overreaching Jefferson City Republican government. And not that the Republicans out in rural Missouri wanted to vote it, but the narrative of not knowing what's going to happen and the one person, one vote argument, that resonates with conservatives. The part that I jokingly say, I was going to disagree with you, the part that I didn't see, particularly on 5, was, okay, it may do a cost shift of income tax to sales tax. Like, let's say the average person pays $1 in taxes per year, just to make this math easy for everybody that I do every time I'm on the show. It didn't talk. The message was not about reducing taxes. It was a tax shift. And at the end of the day, I want spending cut by Jefferson City. I want my tax burden to go down. I want my property tax to go down. I want my income tax to go down. I want the sales tax to go down. And I want that to be coupled by a cut in spending. I want when I was doing more lobbying than Politico stuff now, and I remember in the 96, 97-ish era, the state budget was like, it topped $11 billion for the first time. And what was it, $55 billion? And I know a lot of our federal passed down dollars that are mandated to spend on social programs, but let's cut spending. Let's have that conversation. And people say we're a low services. I'm fine with that. I'm fine if I want something that I have to pay for it. I'm not opposed to toll roads. I'll say that. I don't care. I think the work they're doing on 70, they should have bit the bullet and made it 4 lanes all the way across both directions versus 3, because by the time it opens, it's still going to be congested, and I'm still going to be riding next to semis. But I think and I'm sorry to ramble.
No, you're
but yeah, the argument about spending being reduced was not very prominent in this.
It was non-existent.
Non-existent in the 5 campaign. And I think that's what conservatives want to see. If you're going to move it from income tax to property to sales to whatever kind of tax, and I'm still paying that $1 a year in taxes, how do you get my taxes down to 45 cents, 50 cents, 60 cents, whatever? How do you reduce my burden to pay the government? Yeah. And that's the part I think was non-existent.
And this tax plan could have been enacted in the legislature.
Right.
The argument was you want to put this in the state constitution so that a future legislature couldn't change this.
Or an IP could
change it. But I also think, too, is that the politicians that were crafting this bill in Jefferson City didn't want to make the hard choices of choosing who was going to get a sales tax increase, who was not. They were going to be under heavy pressure from the lobbyists for carve-outs, and I think they punted on that issue. They've said, we'll put it on the ballot, and I think they miscalculated badly because they thought, talking about eliminating the income tax, that people were going to be salivating over that, and that they were going to overlook the detail that there's no details into this. I just think they miscalculated by thinking that the word eliminate the income tax was going to be the magic bullet to push this thing through.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm still paying the same amount because it's just it's a shift. And again, I want to get rid of the income tax. I'm great with that. I can figure out how to not buy stuff later in life and not have the sales tax. But that's the thing, is the spending cutting was not part of that argument.
I think, Jim, and also a mistake that was made in Amendment 5 was one of the ways that they were trying to sell this was comparing our state to other states that don't have income taxes. And left out of that conversation was the fact that all of these other states that don't have sales taxes, they either have tourism,
much more tourism.
or either they have oil and gas. And one of the states that was compared to all the time was Tennessee because they're right next door. And I did a little research on this, that Tennessee has the Great Smoky Mountains. I didn't know this, but the Smoky Mountains are the most visited national park in the United States. That surprised me as well. That's the most visited. And 2, they have Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
Now, our comparisons to the state park and to Nashville are the Lake of the Ozarks and Branson. I looked up the numbers. Lake of the Ozarks and Branson brings in $12 billion a year in tourism revenue. The Smoky Mountains in Nashville bring in $48 billion. almost four times more than that. I think it was just a bad comparison, even comparing to other states, and then even comparing it to Tennessee, because we don't have a Nashville. We don't have a national park that is the most visited park in our state. And I think that was just a fundamental mistake. You look at people that vote in primary elections, these are people that pay attention to politics and are really following this stuff. And I think trying to sell that to them, that we can be like Tennessee, when these people are engaged. If you vote in a primary election, you are an engaged voter.
Yep.
And what I saw on social media was people just weren't buying that argument.
No, and where do you recoup the revenue? So if it goes to tourism, the hotel motel lobby, the restaurant lobby, the those type of the cities that had the Hannibals, the Bransons, the Lake of the Ozarks. If you're going to start increasing sales taxes, or if there's some sort of hospitality tax, maybe not specifically on a hotel, but maybe if you're buying a Six Flags ticket, there's some sort of tax on that for more of a tourism thing. Those communities, those organizations, those industries rightly would oppose that, and they would be vocal about that. So you have to, it's not something, it's hard to make that big of a shift quickly. And to me, cutting spending is where you got to start.
Governor Kehoe staked a lot of his political capital on Amendment 5. This was his signature issue for the 2026 legislature. As we talked about, this went down in absolute flames. Does this hurt Governor Kehoe with this vote last night?
Well, I think it hurts in the short term. I mean, he hasn't, I don't think he's announced if he's running or not. I assume he's running again for re-election. I don't think it hurts him per se. I think it's, the short-term pain. I think the IP reform, they can look at different ways to address things. Maybe they try something like that again, separately. Those two things got coupled together. I think it's, it's a short-term pain, not a long-term re-election pain.
Let's look at the other marquee race in the area. That was the St. Charles County executive race. I saw some polling on this race as well, and it showed Bill Eigel with a small lead over Jason Law and Steve Ellman. I was shocked to see the margin that Ellman received. He almost got 50% of the vote. Your thoughts on that overall race?
Well, Steve has a legacy being the St. Charles executive. He is, liked by St. Charles County. Bill Eigel is Bill Eigel. I love Bill Eigel, former gubernatorial primary candidate, spoiler. His political ideology, his political persona is one of, opposition in general. And I mean that in the nicest way, but everybody likes Steve Ellman. You don't, unless you're in a room arguing policy with him, you see that really nice, gregarious person. And both campaigns trying to tie each other to different sides of data center arguments and different sides of, you name it, issues out in St. Charles County, the property tax thing. It's like they were slinging the same arrows, but at the end of the day, Steve Ellman has performed well. St. Charles is a well-run, economically prosperous county, and I think rank-and-file voters don't see a need to change that because I think you've got that faction of, like, the Freedom Caucus Republicans out there, and you got the faction of the mainline Chamber of Commerce Republicans, and then you got the independents that are picking up the votes. The independents and the Chamber of Commerce Republicans are going to go with Steve Ellman. The Freedom Caucus are going to go with Eigel. And I think that's kind of how you saw the vote split out.
And I said last night on Tony's election show and this morning on Jamie Allman's show that I think the Eigel campaign made a mistake on going after Ellman personally for the reasons that you cited. He's very well liked out there.
He's respected.
He's been a judge in St. Charles County. He's been a state senator from St. Charles County. He's had how many terms? 6 terms as county executive out there.
State senator.
I think it was a mistake going personal and calling him Sleepy Steve because of the reasons you cited. Steve Ellman is a very liked person. People out there know him.
They respect him. Yeah, he's a statesman.
I think that turned off a lot of voters in St. Charles. All right, the next question I have, and then we're going to speak with our next guest. There was much speculation that if Bill Eigel won the St. Charles County executive race, that he would challenge Mr. Kehoe, Governor Kehoe, in 2028. Now that Bill lost this race pretty decisively, do you think that hurts those plans, or do you see him still running for governor in 2028? And you know as well as being a politico, you can't keep losing too many elections and expect to be politically viable.
No, and I'm not saying he's out yet, but I'm saying the odds of him running a successful primary against a sitting governor. When's the last time a sitting governor got knocked off? That was Bob Holden.
Yeah, I was going to say Bob, the Democrats. Yeah.
And who did that? Claire McCaskill. After Claire lost the Senate race, or was it the Senate race? Governor, she lost something.
But against
Bond.
Not Bond, but Blunt.
Blunt. So, had she lost that, she probably would not have come back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But then she ran for the Senate again after winning that governor's race against Talent. So I think, 2 losses, the ability to galvanize support statewide. He's going to have his folks locally that are always going to support him, and he's going to have the ability to mount a campaign. Is it a strong, financially savvy, viable campaign? 2 years from now, that's a long way away in politics. So is November at this point. But I think it becomes longer and longer of a runway for him to have success running against Kehoe in a primary. That does not mean somebody else with the same kind of Freedom Caucus ideology doesn't make a bigger name for themselves in 2 years and have an equally visible chance at running a primary. I think Kehoe wins nomination today if he wants it.
And that is my guest co-host, Jim Gwinner. Coming up, we're going to speak with Paul Perez. He's president of the National Border Patrol Council. Then after that, it's Joey V's Movies on a Wednesday. He's going to be reviewing the movie One Night Only. It's a rom-com where premarital sex in America is illegal except for one night a year. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow us on Rumble at News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Watch for a few isolated evening storms overnight tonight into tomorrow morning. That's where we have to watch for some heavy rain and even some isolated flooding is possible. And many of the area are under a flood watch. For most, you're just seeing about a ½ inch to 2 inches of rain, but there will be some isolated pockets of 3 to 5 inches of rain. Where that occurs, this is where we have to watch for some flooding. Temperatures in the 80s tomorrow. With your first alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
I can tell you, I know for a fact that we are in the middle of a very busy season of giving, right? It's like Christmas in July. No, there's lots of weddings going on right now. There are lots of birthday parties. There's maybe some extended graduation celebrations, things of that sort. If you're looking for special things for the special people in your life, I would suggest that you check out Newstedter's Fine Jewelers. Tim Jones here to tell you that we have been so pleased with everything at Newstedter's. First of all, it's a family-owned, locally-owned, independently-owned business. Aren't those the ones that you want to frequent, right? The Newstedders are wonderful people. They're in their second and third generations of Newstedders operating Newstedter's Fine Jewelers, located at 2961 Daughtery Ferry Road, right in the heart of the county of St. Louis, just 2 miles west of Interstate 270. Beautiful store with wonderful people that are there to make sure that you are a happy camper. The loved ones in your life are going to love you for it. They've got so many special things at Newstedter's. Lab and Mine Diamonds. They've got the stacker rings, which Diana Newstetter tells me are very popular these days with the ladies. They've got awesome watches for the men. They've got everything, like I said, for all the special people in your life and then some. Check them out 24/7 at wowdiamonds.com. That's Newstedter's Fine Jewelers at wowdiamonds.com.
Calling all patriots. Join the St. Louis County Republicans for the annual Lincoln Reagan Day Dinner, Saturday, September 19th at River City Casino. Our keynote speaker, Newsmax personality, Rob Carson. Enjoy a full night of fun and information alongside state and local officials and candidates. It's an evening you won't want to miss. Dinner and program, just $75. For tickets, email Renee Artman at hotmail.com or call 314-398-6667.
Looking for unbelievable deals? Stop by Overstock Outlet in Lake St. Louis or Warrenton. Open 7 days a week. Discover big savings on a huge variety of merchandise with no hassle. Just great prices. Visit us in Lake St. Louis on Highway N or in Warrenton on Boones Lake. Check out our Facebook page at Overstock Outlet Lake St. Louis or go online to overstockoutletstl.com. Unbeatable value, friendly service, and you never know what we'll have at Overstock Outlet.
When insurance companies know you're represented by Onder Law, they know Onder is not going to let you be pushed around. Their reputation is built on years of courtroom battles. If you suffer an injury or damage to your property, serve the insurance company notice you have Onder Law on your side, a St. Louis firm you can trust to protect you at every term. Don't settle for less. You want to win? Believe me, Onder wins. Onder, O-N-D-E-R, underlaw.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Thousands of migrants have entered the Spanish territory of Ceuta from Morocco in the last 2 days, with at least 67 people dying in the attempt, prompting local officials to seek help from Spain's national government. Ceuta is a Spanish territory located on the northern shores of the Mediterranean coast at the tip of Africa. Ceuta and Melilla are heavily fortified. Many migrants who reach them are immediately turned back, while others are held in shelters and can apply for asylum. The journey is treacherous. Migrants often swim about 3 miles from the nearest Moroccan town to reach the Spanish territory.
527 on the Tim Jones and Chris Arp show, and that was our southern border during the Biden administration.
Mm-hmm.
Now Spain is experiencing the same rush of illegal immigrants. On the line with us is Paul Perez. He's president of the National Border Patrol Council. Paul, welcome back to the show.
Great to be with you guys.
Great to have you. Paul, over the weekend, the Mark Wayne Mullen, DHS Secretary, got in a little hot water. He was at the National Governors Association meeting, and he drew a distinction between immigrants pursuing legal status and those who aren't. He called for changes to employment visa programs to address labor shortages. A couple of hours later, he posted on X, "No amnesty for illegal aliens ever." Does the Border Patrol have confidence in the DHS Secretary?
Well, look, I mean, at the end of the day, what the way he clarified his remarks, and, you know, I saw another interview that he did yesterday. He was actually in my area, and he did a TV interview, and he said that they took a small snippet of what he said and misconstrued it. But at the end of the day, what he did was clarify what this administration's policy is and what is going to happen to any illegal immigrant that's apprehended in this country. That's what we care about. That's what we want to see. And as long as we are not told anything different, we want to remove every single illegal alien in this country, regardless of whether they have a criminal history in this country or not. We want to remove them because they broke into our country and they deserve to be removed back to their home country or a third country if their country doesn't want them.
So what is the status of our two borders right now? I'm going to include the northern, and I mean, I know we have oceans, but, you know, the U.S.-Mexico border, U.S.-Canada border, north and south. What is the state of that today versus the Biden administration, the previous administration? You know, how are we gaining operational control? Where are we at from the border agent's perspective?
Well, the fact is we have the most controlled border in the history of this country. And as long as I've been doing this job, we have never had a more secure border, either on the northern or southern border. And again, it goes back to the policies that President Trump put in place on day one. That's all we needed. We have the tools necessary. We have the manpower. We have the personnel. Now we have an influx of money from the two reconciliation bills, the first being the one big, beautiful bill, and then the reconciliation 2.0. So we've got all that. But none of that would matter if the policies that President Trump put into place weren't being followed. And that's why I have a lot of respect for our leadership right now, specifically Mark Wayne Mullen, because he's making sure that we as the Border Patrol can enforce those laws, make sure that nobody's coming across. And if they do come across, we can actually apprehend them instead of sitting on our hands in a processing center, processing people to be released. So it's a tale of two different eras. The Biden era, which was complete chaos, catastrophe, versus the Trump era, which is the most secure border in the history of this country.
Paul, as president of the National Border Patrol Council, are there any laws that are currently in the books that make the Border Patrol's job unnecessarily difficult?
Well, if you look at the asylum laws, the way the asylum laws are written, if another president took over that wanted to do exactly the same thing that President Biden did, then the asylum laws would be hurting us, which is why we've urged Congress to codify into law the policies that President Trump put into place, such as Remain in Mexico. We would like to see the standard for asylum a lot higher than what the current standard is. We'd like to make sure that there's mandatory detention pending those asylum hearings, because what Biden did was allow millions of people to come in, falsely claim asylum, but be released anyway into this country for hearings that they were never going to attend. So if we can make some changes, codify into law what President Trump has done, that would help us tremendously, and it would make sure that no other president could come and do what President Biden did.
So you've represented Border Patrol agents for a number of years. You know, how has the job evolved? How, I guess more so, how has morale changed between last administration and this administration? You know, I'm sure there's a lot of misconceptions out there about what you do on a day in, day out basis. But how is the state of the Border Patrol agency? The agents.
The morale for the Border Patrol is great. We lost a lot of people under the Biden administration to other agencies, to retirement. People that did not want to serve under that administration that were eligible to retire, they retired. Under this current administration, we've got people that are eligible to retire that are staying on because they're actually able to do the job that they were hired to do. We're going after the traffickers. We're going after the narcotic smugglers. We're going after the weapon smugglers. We're going after everybody that's committing crimes along the southwest and northern border, which was free reign to the cartels under the Biden administration. So it's complete 180 from what we were doing before to what we're doing now. So it's a really, really good time to be a Border Patrol agent, to be able to do the job that they promised you when they recruited you. So morale is high. It's at an all-time high because of the fact that we have the support from President Trump and his administration.
Paul, ICE detained more than 46,000 people in July. That's a record high for the president's second term. But are the cartels simply changing tactics?
The cartels are always going to adapt. They're always going to adapt to what we do. And let's face it, for those 4 years that there was little pushback from this administration on not only Mexico, but the cartels, they had free reign. They were able to do what they wanted to do. They made money hand over fist. They were actually backed up on being able to smuggle people into the United States. And when I say smuggle, I use that term loosely because what they did was essentially cross them by the thousands. They were backed up. That's how much money they were making. Now that we're doing what we can, yes, they are having to adapt because we've got thousands of agents. We've got Department of War. We've got National Guard all deployed to the northern and southern border, and they have to look at different ways to try to get their products across. It's very interesting because we've got the military out there with us, and they bring a certain amount of technology that, we don't have as a civilian law enforcement agency, but we're going to acquire, with the funding that we got through the big, beautiful bill. And the cartels never have to worry about budgets. So they've got access to tools that we don't have access to. But the fact that we are out there making sure that we make it difficult to impossible for them to cross has really, really set them back. They're not making the money like they were before. So they've got to adapt. They've got to change tactics. And whether they take that to other countries, who knows? But we've got the border secure. We're doing everything we can to make sure that the cartels are not as successful at all.
So one of the things when I think cartels, my mind immediately, not so much, and I should think about this more, but I don't think about the human cargo that they're bringing, whether it's people that are contracting to get them smuggled into the United States, whether it's people that are being brought in for the sex trade, or if it's people that are being brought in against their will to work for the cartels. But I think of, the drugs themselves that the cartels are bringing. You see the images of the drug boats, and I know that's different agencies and entities, off the coast of Venezuela. But how are they kind of adapting and changing tactics? Like what are they? I remember tunnels. I've seen the drug submarines and different things like this. But how sophisticated are the cartels? I think, are they as sophisticated as our military? In knowing that they're not as sophisticated, but what are some of the most technological advances that you're seeing them trying to employ?
Well, some of the mini subs that you've seen, those mini subs take a lot of engineering effort. They cost a lot of money. And, they try to make as many runs as they can with those submersible and semi-submersible submarines. They've also got fast boats. They're going to try to exploit areas of the border that they believe are difficult for us to patrol. But because of the amount of technology we've got an edge up. The question whether or not they're at the level of our military, absolutely not, which is why I wish the government of Mexico would allow President Trump to unleash the military, the U.S. military on the Mexican cartels, because we could eradicate them from this planet very, very easily. We've got the ability to do so. But Mexico wants to be a sovereign country and take care of their own, and we see how that's been a losing battle for them. But the cartels using technology, again, they don't have a shortage of funds when it comes to technology. So whether or not they're in the banking industry, whether or not they're selling, Mexican oil that they steal, they steal from the Mexican government, they hijack, and they're going expanding their base to whatever can make them money because of the amount of money that they lost on being able to traffic people across the border, whether it was human trafficking, whether it was alien smuggling. They don't have that revenue fund. They don't have that revenue stream, so they've had to branch out. And yes, they are going to try everything they can, whether it's using drones to bring narcotics over to the border. They're gonna try to do everything they can, and it's our job to stop them. We've got the support, we've got the funding, and they're not as successful as they were under the Biden administration.
Speaking with Paul Perez, president of the National Border Patrol Council. Paul, we have seen, let me put it this way. There's the perception that most of the illegal border crossings, those people are coming from Mexico, Central and South America. But we've seen reports of people from all over the world crossing our southern border. My question is, how are these people getting to Central America and Mexico? And are the cartels, do they have partners over in Europe and in Africa and in Asia to bring these people to the southern border to smuggle them in?
The cartels, the Mexican cartels, they do have they have an arm in almost every country. They have in Europe, in China, which is where they bring the fentanyl from. They have their hand in almost every country that they need to have their hand in. And so, yeah, that extends to smuggling people into Mexico or Central or South America. It's a lot easier to get them there. And then they bring them up and try to get them across the southwest border. But you're right. We've got people from China. We've got people from India. We've got Russians. We've got people from different countries that around the world who we've apprehended. And again, a testament to the fact that we're out there being able to do that. Whether they try to put them in an 18-wheeler and smuggle them through our checkpoints, whether they try to put them on the trains, whether they try to smuggle them through airports, we've got people that are actually out in the field making sure that we apply as much pressure that we can to the cartels so that they lose that revenue stream. And we've been very, very successful. But the cartels, again, they're not going to give up.
So when I think of the southern border, I'm thinking the Rio Grande. I'm thinking Southwest, desert, Oklahoma type, Western topography. But the northern border, it's got its own issues. But when I think of the U.S.-Canadian border, yeah, there's Detroit, and you go over to Windsor, or you go from whatever the city is on the other side of Toronto, and others. But I also think of like the vast Minnesota wilderness up by the Great Lakes. And can you talk a little bit? I know we've got a little time left about the northern border and the geographic differences between the northern and southern border and securing the northern border.
Yeah, so it's not as easy as people think, but again, we have the expertise, we have the technology. It's the same as the Big Bend area of the southwestern border. In the Big Bend area of Texas, there are a lot of barriers, man-made barriers, that make it very difficult to not only patrol, but to cross. We see the same thing on the northern border in different areas. And that's where we rely on our training, our sensor placement, our technology placement, our cameras. We've got drones. We've got so many tools at our disposal, which allows us to monitor that border more than it's ever been monitored before because of the support that we have, because of the funding that we have. So I really can't go into exactly what it is we do, but I can tell you that we do have a good lock on the northern border, just like we do the southwest border.
And that is Paul Perez, president of the National Border Patrol Council. He is at bpunion.org. Paul, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all you and everything that your agents do to keep our country safe.
Thank you. We appreciate it. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
5:42, we're going to talk about sex next.
Isn't that a song?
Jim.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about
let's
sex.
talk about sex. That was,
These three
Salt
guys
Pepper.
will know the most about sex. I guarantee it. Chris, Jim, and I.
All right. Boy, that's a good tease. Listeners will definitely stick around
It's worth
for
a
that.
Google.
You're listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL. From the News Talk STL Weather Center.
I'm meteorologist Leah Hill with your first alert forecast. Watch for a few isolated evening storms. Overnight tonight into tomorrow morning, that's where we have to watch for some heavy rain, and even some isolated flooding is possible. And many of the area are under a flood watch. For most, you're just seeing about a ½ inch to 2 inches of rain, but there will be some isolated pockets of 3 to 5 inches of rain. Where that occurs, this is where we have to watch for some flooding. Temperatures in the 80s tomorrow. With your first alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Leah Hill.
The Herzog Foundation is the vision of its founder, Stanley Herzog, and it exists to promote quality Christ-centered K-12 education nationwide.
Hi, this is Chris Stegall with the Herzog Foundation. We offer a wide variety of resources relevant to today's families, including a free online publication called The Lion. The lion is one of God's most majestic creatures, symbolizing strength and courage. Named for its attributes, the Lion publication carries articles covering a wide range of topics facing American families and culture, especially related to the education of children. The Lion can be found online at readlion.com. That's READ lion.com.
Sign up for The Lion at readlion.com and find dozens of must-read articles published every day. Visit readlion.com and subscribe for the weekly and daily digests so you never miss an article. Readlion.com. That's readlion.com.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
You're listening to Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Finding love is hard enough. Try doing it on the one night a year single people are legally allowed to have sex. I hate this night.
How is anyone supposed to find something real on a night like tonight?
Night's almost over and we're running out of time. Who would you choose? Allie! If you only have one night.
Are you two together? I'm gonna need a clear answer.
You're cute when you're nervous.
I'm not nervous.
Then you're just cute.
And that is the preview for for One Night Only. That's a rom-com where premarital sex in America is illegal except for one night a year. How many toasted Ravs out of 5 will Joey V give it?
Joey, baby, what movie are you playing?
Brought to you by Harry J's Steakhouse, Freddy's Market, AAA Motor Speedway, and Best Buy Flooring.
One Night Only is a high-concept, alternate reality romantic comedy. It's about two love-starved strangers who keep crashing into each other on the one night of the year in America when single people are allowed to have sex. And 3 years ago, the government passed a mandate that sex should exclusively be between married couples, with the exception of this one night. And premarital sex, it's legal, but you must use protection. And at the age of 18, all people receive a microchip tattoo on their wrist that will snitch on them if they start to have sex with someone. And it stars Monica Barbaro and Calum Turner. Monica Barbaro, she was nominated last year. She played Joan Baez in that Bob Dylan biopic.
Good movie.
And then Calum Turner, he starred in a different high-concept rom-com last year, that one that's called Eternity, where after you die, you're in this in-between, and then you have to decide where you want to spend the rest of eternity, which kind of heaven you want to spend in. So I don't know if he's got some sort of niche here.
Yeah.
And Chris, can you name one single rom-com that you like?
Can you give me some lists of them?
All right,
I don't
Jim.
really go see
Hey,
a lot of
Jim's
them.
got Jim's a romance.
I love
A romantic.
the Christmas movie that came out in the early
Oh my
2000s,
God.
Just Friends, with Ryan Reynolds and Anna Faris and Amy Smart and the brunette guy, the dumb guy from American Pie that was always like the hypersensitive Nimrod.
You watch Hallmark movies, don't you?
No, I don't get that channel.
Oh, okay.
He's assuming that your wife, who's a great writer, she's a very romantic person.
Wonderful writer.
So it sounds like it's not rubbing off on you, though. Just that one movie.
No, I'm a nonfiction reader. I'm reading something about World War II right now. About the,
You could have gave me a few options. I would have probably
I'll give you
remembered one.
my top 5
Okay,
rom-coms
let's hear
here.
yours.
Got When Harry Met Sally.
Heard of that.
I mean, Billy Crystal, Meg Ryan. They basically invented the modern rom-com with that one. Sleepless in Seattle, Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. It's about a guy calling into a radio show. How can you not love that? When we love radio as much as we do, I just love seeing radio in movies. And that one's actually really good. 40-Year-Old Virgin, Steve Carell and Catherine Keener. It's vulgar, but it's still very sweet. And then The Heartbreak Kid. This one, Charles Grodin and Sybil Shepherd. It's super dark. Charles Grodin is on his honeymoon driving to Miami, and he realized he hates his wife. So when they go and check into the hotel in Miami, he goes onto the beach and starts looking for other women to cheat on his wife with. And then he finds a girl and chases her back to her hometown. And Sybil Shepherd looks as beautiful as you've ever seen her. But it's funny, but it's dark. And then this one, They Came Together. That's got Paul Rudd and Amy Poehler. It's made by David Wayne. This one is actually making fun of every romantic comedy ever.
I've never seen any of those movies.
You would
ever.
love They Came Together if you've seen those other romantic movies, because it's making fun of them. And actually, One Night Only owes a lot to They Came Together. It's kind of similar. I didn't realize this, but not even based on that trailer, can you tell that this is a super silly movie? It seems pretty straightforward. It's got that one little twist, but you think it's going to
But it had that like superhero thing at the beginning when it comes in with dun, that sound.
Yeah, it's like The Purge, but it's The Urge.
Yeah. And One Night Only, it's being advertised as a regular rom-com too. So I don't think people know that this is a really silly movie. I mean, it opens up with this super obvious song, Sarah Bareilles, Brave. Do you know that song?
And no.
You would like me to sing it for you?
No.
Say
No.
what you want to say till the words fall out.
Very good,
Honestly,
Never knew you could sing.
I just want you to be brave. It's something like that. But then it starts going into plaque psoriasis. And you go, okay, this is like that Ozempic.
Uh-huh.
So this main chick, Monica Barbaro, she's actually a singer for these drug commercials. And that's when I knew instantly when I went into the plaque psoriasis song, this is going to be a super silly movie. And even if you hate jokes, the whole movie is just filled with beautiful people in the sluttiest dresses, like the shortest skirts you've ever seen, guys in sharp suits. Everyone's dressed to get banged on this night. So there's just so much eye candy throughout this whole movie. Even if you're not laughing, you're like, wow, look at all these beautiful people.
I'm very curious. Do they go into the premise of why premarital sex was outlawed, or is that just you just don't know that?
You just kind of take it at face value. You can have questions in the back of your head, but it doesn't answer it. You know, you can try and figure out if there's a political bent to this. I don't know, because when you think something about you can't have premarital sex, you think, oh, well, people who are Christians or something will say that you shouldn't have premarital sex.
Right.
And then they got to be in charge, and now they're trying to rule over women's bodies. But also they've got this tattoo that'll snitch on you, and it seems like it's making fun of the required COVID shots that we had to go through.
Yeah.
So maybe it's playing both sides, or maybe there's no political bent at all.
And I do have one more question.
Oh,
Is that one day of the year when you can have premarital sex? Is that Valentine's Day?
I don't know if they say the exact day. It's in New York City is where the entire movie's set, and it seems like a very comfortable August, you know, where the leaves are perfect. And it's only for 12 hours.
12
it's from
hours.
7
12
p.m.
hours.
to 7 a.m. the next day.
That doesn't seem fair.
No one's getting any sleep. No one's going. You don't want to go to a restaurant the next day because people are just going to be falling asleep while they're cooking your food.
Viagra sales must be go through the roof in those 12 hours.
Yeah.
Condoms start at $50 each in this movie.
Wow.
And as the night goes on, you can't find condoms anywhere. So people are trying maybe rubber gloves, or if someone has one last condom, they're selling it for $300. I mean, people are going crazy because that's part of the law. You got to use protection. No glove, no love.
Who would know if you didn't?
Well, does the chip snitch if you are alone or alone or with someone?
You can do stuff alone.
Okay.
And I think you can do stuff if it's the same gender. It's kind of hinted at, but I can't tell.
What if it's 2 or 3? Can you only be one a night, or can you just go out on a binge and have sex with like 4 or 5 women?
There's people out there that are so hot, they actually have their own app with a QR code where if you scan it, you get scheduled onto their calendar.
Wow.
The guy says, I got 20 minutes for you at about 9:30, but it looks like your dress is really short, so it should not take too much time to get that thing on.
Wow.
It's like an Airbnb for making love or something. Now,
I'm intrigued.
I get anxiety just thinking about going back into this modern dating pool. Were you guys any good at dating back then?
Yeah, I had my fair share of dates in my 20s, and I probably had Chris's share, too.
I'm on Jim.
Yeah. Could you imagine being on the apps nowadays,
No.
just swiping
No.
right, ugly,
No.
kind of hot?
No.
It's so demeaning to these people because you know they're doing that to you. How many people are swiping on me going, he's only 5'10", no thank you.
I'm old-fashioned, and I look at it as like, man, if you got to go online to find a date, you know, what's wrong with you? You can't just see a gal at the mall or a bar and pick her up. You got to go online, but that's my old-fashioned self.
Do you know what? I'll say this, because, again, I'm 24 years married in September. You know, everybody is online. Like, my kids will be in the house downstairs. My son will be playing a video game with his friends remotely, and they're all talking, and he's as social, but they just haven't gotten together to play it, and they don't have to haul their laptops over to play it somewhere. Technology's a big part of people's lives.
Same with my nephew and nieces, man. They just play games with their friends all around town. Crazy. Go ahead, Joey.
I was an idiot in my 20s, and I hated being alone. I had moved out. I was in my own apartment, and I was just flirting with anyone I could and sleeping at other people's places or having people sleep over. And then when I found my current girl, and we moved in together, everything just fell into place. All the anxiety that I had went away, and I've been in love ever since. We've been
you knew
together.
you're always going to have clean underwear and socks.
Well, I do her laundry, too.
Oh, okay.
So
I
maybe
hear
that's
you.
why she picked me. I'm the chores guy, and she's the cooking girl, and we work out perfectly together. And, there's a chunk about halfway through where it loses some of that silly surrealness, and it takes itself too serious. And I was finding myself a little wanting for the silliness to come back. And then it finally does come back.
Okay.
But then that little chunk, I was like, man, you should have just gone bonkers, crazy, bananas the whole way through because I like my movies to be silly. So I give One Night Only a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And
Toasted raviolis.
it cost $25 million to make. I think with the marketing campaign being so bad for this, it's really going to rely on word of mouth because no one knows just how funny this movie is. They think it's just a straightforward rom-com and they don't want to see another one of these. Yeah. I think that, Chris, you would enjoy this if you saw this with your lovely lady.
Is this based on a book or anything, or is this just some screenwriter's imagination? Is it based on something?
It's a script that was on something called The Blacklist, and I think that's something that comes along where there's these great scripts that get passed around that nobody's made. And part of it seems like it was written during COVID, the way that they have these mandates. So I wonder if the script's been floating around for a while, because that other movie that I love, They Came Together, came out a couple years ago. So I wonder if they were in the same ecosystem of scripts and then finally one got made before the other. But I did that last night. As soon as I finished One Night Only, I went and watched They Came Together, and they're just so perfect back to back. If you love rom-coms and then parody movies, I recommend watching them both together.
You had something you were going to
Well,
say?
I was just going to say, it's got a strong cast. The cast in this movie is good. I can't think of I'm just blanking on the
Molly
leads.
Ringwald is in it, and so is LeVar
Molly.
Burton. And Molly
LeVar
Ringwald
Burton.
is banging LeVar Burton, and he has the filthiest mouth. The
LeVar
Reading
Burton and Molly Ringwald, they hooked up?
The Reading Rainbow guy
Lafarge?
Yep, he's
Kunta?
cussing it up. He's saying dirty stuff. He's really funny in it, though.
Kunta?
Exactly.
Wow. Joey, I always ask you when you give your ratings, and you talked a little bit about it because it kind of slowed a little bit. What didn't make this a 5? What was why was it only 3.5 out of 5? What would have made it a 5?
Well, I think it's because it became just a straightforward rom-com for a little bit, and I was really liking the silly stuff. There's a point where they lose a condom, and the woman is being lowered by her ankles into the sewer because it fell in between the grate. And I was just like, what the hell is going on? And she's got the shortest skirt on, and you can see all of her bits, and it's just, this is crazy, and I loved it when it was like that.
That is Joey V's Movies on a Wednesday. That was the review for One Night Only. Joey gives it 3.5. Did I get that? 3.5.
3.5 out of 5. And Jim Glenner got to witness it.
Jim got to witness it. So maybe a good movie you want to see this weekend. You have been listening to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Jim, thank you as always.
Great
for
to be here
in.
as usual. Thanks, both of you. Thanks for Tim for being on vacation or taking a break.
When you drive home, make sure you're listening to the station because Larry Connors USA is going to be talking about Andy Rooney's theory on the 2 kinds of people in the world. 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Drive safe and have a great evening.
Hey, it's Vic Porcelli. We're sitting here with our great friend, Chris Cooper. Hi, Chris.
What's going on, Vic? How are you?
I hear you wrote another book. This one's an e-book. Is that right?
The Business Owner's Playbook for Financial Clarity. So it is a great book for entrepreneurs. It's a very short guide. Give people, business owners, the ability to understand key questions that are important, such as succession planning, legacy planning, getting the IRS out of our pockets, right? Because do you like paying taxes?